Sir Jim Ratcliffe hints at giving Erik ten Hag more time as the Manchester United manager, and it seems that the media have decided that Erik ten Hag should go. These are the stories we will be discussing on the show this morning, but before we jump into that, please smash a like on today's video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start the show off, obviously, by having a little bit of a conversation about the game yesterday. It was a whirlwind of a game at 3-0. I was sat in the garden. It was sunny. I was chilling, not a care in the world. Come and sit back inside in the house. And within 20 minutes, we are 3-3 and then 4-3, which obviously their goal was disallowed. But yeah, it was a completely unacceptable performance in that last 20 minutes of the game. People say, oh, it's because he brought off Garnacho. I think that if he hadn't have brought off Garnacho, people would have complained. Garnacho's played, I think, 31 games in a row for Manchester United at the age of 19. 31 in a row with no break. He's obviously had some injury problems as well at points, hasn't he? And, you know, you're 3-0 up going into the 70th minute, and you're telling me that a team of pretty much everybody in that team are international players. Well, they all are international players, aren't they? Bar maybe one or two. Casemiro, Champions League winner. You've got Bruno, who's obviously one of the best players in the Portugal team. You've got, you know, all of these people who are international players. Marcus Rashford thinks he's Messi, Mbappe, whatever. You've got a team full of superstars, let's say, or at least players who think they're superstars. And you're telling me that they can't hold out for 20 minutes in an FA Cup semi-final, our only chance of winning anything this season, and that's somehow on the manager because the manager brought off Garnacho. I mean, surely he sat there thinking, these players must be able to hold out a 3-0 lead, but clearly not. And we know time and time again, they do this. They're bottle jobs. They don't have the mentality. And as I've said for months and months and months and months, this isn't a reaction to that specific game. 90% of those players need to leave Manchester United. I've been saying this for probably 6 or more months. Like, 90% of those players need to go. They really, really do. And I've seen quite a lot of people in the media this morning saying, you know, oh, people complaining about injuries. They've only got injuries in 2 positions. That's what Gary Neville was saying this morning, that Manchester United only have injuries in 2 positions and it shouldn't be an excuse. I mean, what is he talking about? You've got, I think, 6 centre-backs out. We haven't had a left-back all season. Yesterday, we were missing Sofian Amrabat and Mason Mount, two of probably, well, 2 players who would have come off the bench in yesterday's game. You've got Jadon Sancho, who refuses to play for Manchester United, who we spent £80 million on because he feels he's been hard done by. Like, you've got a 19-year-old in Garnacho, who's our best winger. You've got Kobe Mainoo at 18 years of age having to play every single game of football. And, you know, pundits think that it's a reasonable reason to say that Erik ten Hag should be sacked because, oh, the injuries aren't true. And, like, what are they talking about? If you look at the team that we had on the bench yesterday, like, what really do you think Erik ten Hag was supposed to do? There wasn't anybody else sat on that bench who should have come on at a different point. Yes, Rashford should have come off earlier, but I think, you know, from what everybody seems to be saying on social media over the last kind of few months, obviously this is just an opinion. None of us are going to be able to see Marcus Rashford's contract, but it does seem strange that no matter how badly Marcus Rashford plays, he still gets picked. And is there something in that new contract that he signed? Remember, right? You've got to give him credit. When Marcus Rashford got his new contract, he just had the best goal-scoring record of his whole career. He was being compared to Mbappe. Everyone was saying he was world-class. You know, everybody in this fan base was singing his praises last season, saying how incredible he was and saying, I don't think I ever said he was on the level of Mbappe, but, you know, the talk sports of this world were comparing him to Mbappe, saying he's unbelievable. He deserves 350, 400 grand a week. So it's very convenient for the narrative to change. Now, I'm not by any means saying that he is on that level, but the point I'm trying to make is that imagine you're Marcus Rashford, right? You've just come off the best of your best goal-scoring season. You've just won the League Cup and you've just got 3rd in the Premier League, and it's time to sign a new contract. If I was him, I would be saying, yeah, I want to, you know, ensure that I get playtime. I want that to be in my contract, saying that every single game, if I'm fit, I start. And when we look at that now, we think, what the hell, that's a disgrace. But at that time, if I said to you last season that Marcus Rashford should be starting every single game, I don't think anybody in the fan base would be like, oh no, he's rubbish. Like, you'd have all been like, yeah, I agree. So it's very difficult, and it's one of those ones where, you know, people say, are players playing for their new contracts? And I think in Marcus Rashford's case, it can't just be a coincidence that you have an unbelievable season and then the next year you have an absolute stinker. Maybe next year he'll have an unbelievable season, but I just think there's the same pattern with Marcus Rashford where maybe 1 in 3 seasons he's good, 2 seasons he's terrible. But the issue that I think a lot of Man United fans have is that even if you're having a bad season, even if, you know, chances aren't coming your way or you have bad luck, you still have to give 150%, and that's just not something that Marcus Rashford does. And I'm not just saying Marcus Rashford. There's, as I said, 90% of those players in that squad yesterday need to go, in my opinion. And I've said that for months and months and months. Obviously, all of the youth players on the bench, I'm really happy that they got that opportunity to sit on the bench in a semi-final of an FA Cup. That's an incredible experience, albeit maybe a slightly damaging one, considering how badly the game went in the end. But like, if you go through our team, we're relying on Kobbie Mainoo at the age of 18, who's just come through the youth academy. He's our best midfielder. Like, that shouldn't be happening at Manchester United. Like, it just shouldn't. Now, I'm not by any means saying I don't want Kobbie Mainoo to start, but I'm just saying it shows the lack of squad depth. Christian Eriksen came onto the pitch for Mainoo. Eriksen literally looks like he can barely run for 5 minutes, let alone 90 minutes. Like, yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it? And I think that now I've kind of slept on it a little bit. I think it has just realigned my focus that maybe Erik ten Hag isn't the right man for this club. None of us can say that for certain. I can't sit here today and say that Erik ten Hag is 100% the best manager for Manchester United. I can't say that. It's impossible because, somebody else might come in and they might do better. I can't tell the future. I'm not a fortune teller. But what I can say is this, that 90% of those players need to go. And if Erik ten Hag leaving means that they stay, I don't want that to happen. The last thing I want is for these players, these spoiled brats, effectively, to be empowered by a new manager coming in and the club saying everyone will get a second chance. I mean, Marcus Rashford's been here for 9 or 10 seasons now. What have we won in 9 or 10 seasons? I think we won the League Cup, maybe the Europa League and the FA Cup, and that's it. We haven't won any Premier Leagues. We haven't challenged for any Premier Leagues. We haven't challenged for a Champions League. We've won a couple of trophies, and that's it in 10 years. And he's been the main player of that period. And he survived sacking after sacking after sacking. He survived Mourinho. He survived Ragnick. And again, I'm not just trying to single him out, but I just think he's a good example. I saw a really, I say funny stat, but just to kind of realign our anger here. So Mikel Arteta in the last 4 years, 0 finals. He hasn't been in one final in the last 4 years. Ten Hag, 3 finals in 2 years. So just remember that, all right, when where you're pointing the finger. Erik ten Hag has got us to 2 finals, so 2 FA Cup finals and a League Cup final in the space of 2 years. Not even 2 years, it's not even the end of the season yet, but 2 years. Arteta's been at Arsenal for 5 years now, and he's been in no finals in 4 years. Now, I know people would say, oh, well, he's challenging for the Premier League, they were in the Champions League. Like, challenging doesn't really, if you don't win anything, it's, are they going to be remembered as the team that challenged but won nothing? And the point I'm trying to make here is that I do think Erik ten Hag deserves some respect to have got to 3 finals with this absolute terrible crop of players. Obviously, he's at fault for some of it. Why did he sign Antony? Why did he sign Onana? Like, there is, of course, fault for him, but I just think you have to look at it from a level perspective. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's comments. So he was interviewed after the London Marathon yesterday. So for anybody who doesn't know, Jim Ratcliffe ran the London Marathon yesterday, which is absolutely nuts at the age of 71. So fair play to him for that. But he was interviewed by the BBC after the game, and he says, the fans are impatient. I have sympathy with that, but it's a journey. Whether they like it or not, they have to be a bit patient. It's not a light switch. You can't just turn it around like that. And I think that this is a really, really big support of Erik ten Hag, because he's saying you have to be patient. It's a process. We're not just going to immediately be challenging Man City after a couple of months. And I hope that this is almost Erik ten Hag being backed and, him saying that it's a process. We need to bring in the directors of football. We need to get players out. We need to bring in new players. We need to work out what our plan's going to be for the next kind of 6 or 7 years. And I think that's what he's saying. And he goes on to say that one of the problems is in football is you get new guys to come into the team, really capable people, but they're all on gardening leave, obviously referring to Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, all of these, head of recruitments, directors of football. He goes on to say, and so it takes you 6 months to a year, or even in some cases 18 months before they can join, and it's a real issue. So he's identifying that, as frustrating as the results have been, as poor as the season has been, it's a process. And before you have those people in place, you can't really expect us to be, competing for the top trophies, because we haven't for the last 10 to 20 years, So why do we just immediately expect that because Erik ten Hag got us 3rd last season, that this year we're going to be winning things? And I don't know. I really like that Jim Ratcliffe had this conversation, because it was gone completely under the radar. It's been very, very quietly kind of missed, because obviously everybody's just moaning about the game. And I think this is a really, really big indication that maybe they are going to keep Erik ten Hag. Now, obviously, this is just Jim Ratcliffe. Apparently, he's not the one who's going to make the decision 100%. It's going to be, Dan Ashworth, Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox. It's going to be the professionals who are coming in to run the football side of the club. Jim Ratcliffe is just an owner. He's not going to be, deciding what players we sign and anything like that. So it seems like Jim Ratcliffe understands Erik ten Hag's position, but effectively it is going to be up to Dan Ashworth and Omar Barada. So off the back of that, you've now got stories coming out this morning from a pretty reliable source in Germany who's very, very close to Bayern Munich, saying that Thomas Tuchel has now had first contacts with Manchester United. It says Sir Jim Ratcliffe is a big fan of Tuchel and inquired to the manager with a view to a potential move in the summer if Erik ten Hag is to be sacked. So Manchester United are still exploring other options, and I think that is the right thing to do. Of course, you have to keep your options open. You can't just go into it blindly, but I think Jim Ratcliffe saying that, we have to be patient and that it's a process, that applies to the manager as well. I mean, he's the one managing the team. Of course it's a process, but you can let me know what you guys think. Thomas Tuchel to Man United, not for me. I'm not really that interested in him. But let me know what you guys think. Moving over to the more wider kind of media, you've got Samuel Luckhurst, Manchester Evening News, saying that Erik ten Hag has to go, putting a big article on the Manchester Evening News. You've got Jamie Carragher saying he's got to go. All of the mainstream media are now effectively saying Erik ten Hag should be sacked today because of that, because of this team of players who I saw earn a combined salary of £2 million a week, right? Our players, that team who played yesterday, £2 million a week they earn combined. They were unable to hold out a 3-0 lead with 20 minutes to go against the championship level side. The whole of the Coventry team earn £190,000 a week. Let that sink in. 2 million a week for Man United players and 190,000 a week for the Coventry players. And they're unable to hold out a 3-0 lead. It's a disgrace. And, to be saying, why are none of these pundits saying, why are these professional players unable to hold out a 3-0 lead? It's Erik ten Hag's fault that Casemiro, Rashford, Bruno, Maguire were unable to hold out a 3-0 lead. It's his fault. How? How is that? I don't know. I just think it's stupid and it's lazy punditry. It's the easy option to generate, clicks and to generate, more views and all the rest of it. And I just don't think it's a very in-depth analysis. But let me know what you guys think. Do you want Erik ten Hag to remain as the Man United manager? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to wrap the video up here. This has been Daily Red Devil. If you have enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.